Hey everyone, it's Henry Lawrence Harrison. I recorded an introduction to this video when I started it, and I'll let that run, but I'll just let you know that in this video we deal with the transits to the mundane astrology for this region, eastern United States, and for anywhere where a fixed sign was ascending during the annual revolution for 2020. I had quite a bit of fun with this. I just edited all the transits together, and I'll be sure to put the timestamp for each transit for each day for this month as it comes out. So thanks for listening. I hope it's helpful for you, and God bless you guys. And we're going to be looking at it for this time up until when the sun goes into the 0 degree of Aries, and we'll have the beginning of a new solar year. The 0 degree of Aries is defined as where the sun crosses the ecliptic, and it is the springtime, of course. So we're going to be taking a look at that. So before we jump into this, I just want to take a quick look at Mercury and what he's been doing during this retrograde cycle. Here's our present situation. We have Mercury right in between Jupiter and Saturn and above the ecliptic. Mercury is now moving forward towards Jupiter, and we'll be crossing the ecliptic right at the conjunction to Jupiter. So that's definitely significant for everything that Jupiter has been doing, representing this year. I would expect big Mercury themes to come out on this day. So let's take a slightly closer look. Before I forget, I just want to invoke the blessing of God over this and pray that He will give us the wisdom to contemplate these mysteries to the glory of His name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank God. Praise God for His goodness to us, Lord, that we can contemplate these mysteries with everything that He gives us to do it. These tools, the wisdom, the knowledge. Just thank God for that. So, all right. So Mercury is, we'll look at the path of Mercury. So this was earlier on in the month. Do you remember when we had the new moon in Aquarius? When the moon had to pass Pluto, Saturn, the Venus-Jupiter conjunction with the moon, and then the new moon. Well, that was all during the Mercury retrograde cycle. So the Mercury came back, past these planets, applied towards Saturn. Here we are at this point in time, and now Mercury is going to cross the ecliptic, make the conjunction to Jupiter, and then pass next to these two fixed stars. Now, I don't know about the nature of these fixed stars. I've heard that they are of the nature of benefics, lucky planets, so to speak. But I expect that we'll be seeing some big changes around Mercury themes as Mercury approaches the end degrees of Aquarius. But we'll mostly deal with that in our weekly sort of videos, and we'll see as more information comes out. That's sort of the nature of it. So we'll see. Mercury is definitely moving forward. We can really expect to see things sort of working normally if you've allowed the changes to happen that needed to be changed. This side view of the sky allows us to see basically another plane, and it's something I've been learning about. The tropical zodiac wheel, doesn't give you the perspective of the north and south of the ecliptic. So it's definitely something good to look at. To get that perspective, because Mercury will be on this side of the ecliptic. It looks like until, and even still a little after, the greater conjunction of Jupiter, or of Mercury and the Sun, that we can expect in April, when Mercury will come up to Venus. So just as something to think about as we go into this other part of our astrology. Now we're just going to deal with the transits to the mundane astrology leading up to March 20th, when the Sun will go into Aries, and we will no longer be looking at the transits to the 2020 revolution, which I think many of us are excited about, because it's a very refreshing experience. The Sun will be in Aries. It's the springtime. It's when life comes back, and the freshness of things keeps us looking at the present, really, rather than reflecting back on it. It will be the moment we'll be looking at for the next year. So does that all make sense as to why we're looking at this and then we won't be looking at it again? So this is the end of it, and that's why it doesn't make sense to really look at the revolution or the transits to the revolution after spring, because things will be in their present, in their prime blossoming. So on March the 3rd, we have Mercury square Venus in the AM, in the early morning hours. In the afternoon, we have Mars trine Saturn, and then Mars will move into Gemini in the evening. And of course, that means he will make the sextile over to the 0 degree of Aries, where the Sun was. So the first one that is going to occur is Mercury square Venus. This transit does not make you mentally aggressive, but you will probably feel quite good. The only area of tension will be in your personal relationships. Use this energy to have a discussion with a loved one about the state of your relationship. You may discover that the two of you do not agree in as many ways as you thought. But if you speak in a spirit of compromise, you should have little difficulty in reaching a working agreement. If you proceed from a position of inflexible righteousness, there will be a disagreement and discord in your relationship that could sever communications for some time. Your attitude is very important. Elsewhere in your life, this transit will signify a time of good feelings and perhaps some self-indulgence. This is not likely to do much harm, but stay away from stores selling expensive goodies that you would like to have but really don't need and can't afford. If you would be inclined to buy, and you might regret these decisions or transactions later when you feel more disciplined. If you attend a social gathering, have a good time, but exercise restraint. Take note of how much you have indulged yourself and call a halt at a reasonable time. In other encounters, be careful that you don't give ground too easily and thereby compromise yourself just to avoid unpleasant controversy. You really must hold on to your beliefs, standards, and ideals. But today, you might be inclined to give way before another person. So in the afternoon on March the 3rd, we have Mars trine Saturn. This transit confers patience and willingness to do difficult and exacting work. In many other combinations, the energies of Mars are too difficult to control or for work that requires concentration and skill. The bursts of energy that come with these transits are often too erratic and impulsive. But with this transit, the Mars energy is given off at a very controlled and regular pace, so you can direct it to any task that you must do and keep it concentrated there. Therefore, this is a good time to do any work that you have to keep on plugging at, even though it isn't rewarding. Saturn does not demand that work be glamorous or instantly rewarding. It is satisfied simply to meet the demands of the day. If this transit comes during a period that is otherwise difficult, it guarantees that, for the moment at least, you will be able to cope with your situation, no matter how difficult it becomes. Intellectual or physical work that requires great attention to detail is favored by this influence. Intricate work with mathematics requiring perseverance rather than skill, fine, detailed artwork, and working with metals or stone are all examples of this kind of labor. You will do any task very carefully. You never have to do the same job twice, and you will win at least modest credit for your careful work. Under the best circumstances, you will win great credit from your superiors and may even get a promotion. And others will feel that you deserve the promotion because you have worked so diligently to get it. As you work, your goals will be rather modest and very carefully defined. Because you know exactly what you want, you will be able to get it. Your concerns are extremely practical now, and your first question about any matter is, how useful is it, or what good is it? Nevertheless, this transit will help you get to know yourself better. The close attention to detail that characterizes your way of seeing now will help you see yourself and your own reaction. So, in the evening of March the 3rd, Mars will move from the 7th house of the mundane astrology, whole house signs, to the 8th house in Gemini. Mars will move from Taurus to Gemini. So during this time, Mars will be in the 29th degree, which is quite a critical degree, and a lot of themes seem to need to come out around this degree. So let's look at the transition from Mars in the 7th house to Mars in the 8th house. I'm not going to read this entire section for sake of time, but I'm going to let you see it all, and then we'll move into Mars in the 8th house. Let's read this. Be careful of the primitive manifestation of this transit, however, and try to avoid unnecessary conflicts with others. Be sure that any conflict that occurs is over something worth fighting about. Sometimes this transit can signify legal conflicts and lawsuits. Try to compromise if you can, in order to avoid a needless controversy. So Mars has been in this house for a few months now, a couple months I think, maybe a month and a half. Mars has been in Taurus. So we've been dealing with these themes, but they, watch out. What I'm saying is that around this 29th degree, watch out for them, as they may need to be resolved for people in general in the mundane context. So as Mars goes into the 8th house, let's see. The effects of Mars transit through this house can be either very subtle or very blatant. It is hard to tell in advance which it will be. Basically, your ego drives will create a confrontation with something, which will force a transformation of some kind in your life. For example, you may encounter someone who has a powerful effect upon you and causes you to change. This may happen through a conflict with this person, or he or she may gain influence over you and thereby affect you strongly. Because the 8th house is the house of values that you share with others, there may be a conflict concerning values or objects that are valued, such as property and possessions. The conflict might force you to re-examine and modify your position. Just so you can see all of it, but it wouldn't be surprising if we saw the shift between those sorts of themes come out towards the end of the day with the context of these other two aspects we looked at, and of course the transiting astrology. So I almost missed this aspect. Mars because he's going into a new sign, Gemini will make the sextile over to the sun of last year, of course, the 0 degree of Aries. So this implies that this transit will stimulate our physical vitality, giving you the chance to work hard and accomplish much. Your health is good under this transit, and you are able to approach everything you do with vigor and self-confidence. And this carries over to the psychological level as well, as an ability to assert yourself towards others and stand up for your views in any controversy. And there's the rest of that for you to read. Alright, steady progress. So on March 6th, the only aspect we have to the mundane astrology is Sun sextile Venus, which is going to happen in the overnight hours, really, of the morning, while most people will be asleep. However, so Sun sextile Venus, you feel good today and affectionate toward just about everyone around you. You should spend time with friends and even try to make new ones if the opportunity arises. Think about your relationships and appreciate exactly how much love you give to and receive from others. If there are tensions in any of your relationships, this is a good time to work at smoothing them over. Probably you will be quite popular today, and you should use the positive energies you are putting out to make a good impression on the people you want to impress. However, don't be phony about it, because you will not be very effective in the long run. The point is that the good impression you make will be because of the person you actually are, not the person you think others want you to be. Friendships will be quite important to you, and opportunities of some sort may arise from a friendship today. But even more important, you need the love and reinforcement that only a friend can give, and you will be able to return these feelings to your friend. You will fit in well with the group and feel that their interests are yours, for you are not inclined to be especially individualistic now. Work to remove unpleasantness in your immediate surroundings today by beautifying your home, your neighborhood, or some other part of your environment. This is a good transit for most financial matters, especially for negotiating new financial arrangements for a project that has already been begun. Firm up any loose financial situations in your life. Okay, so when we come to March the 8th, Monday, we have this Mars square to Mercury and Sun conjunct Neptune. Before we get into those, I want to say a little bit about the week prior. So it looks like a lot of our activity themes, our energy is high, our ability to do detail work is emphasized. We're changing from one area of the natal chart to the next for all contexts with Mars. So there's a lot of different people probably doing a lot of different stuff, a lot of different themes coming out that people might not expect. But if you just focus on doing the detail work and not really worried about the reward, just like doing the good that you can, I think there'll be a lot of support for that. And there'll be support around financial situations, it looks like, on the 6th. And this is all, of course, for people in general, for the mundane context. So it looks like there could be a good opportunity for socializing on March the 6th, on Saturday, or Friday night. Could be building up to that. Yeah, so just love your neighbor, man. Love your neighbor, love God, and He'll give you what's good. So let's see. But when we come to Monday, the theme changes in this context. So let's take a look. Mars square Mercury. Be careful how you talk to others today. Your energy level is very high, and you tend to identify your ego very closely with your ideas and opinions, so that you are quick to take offense. You have great capacity for mental effort today, but if any obstacle gets in the way of your energies, you will quickly become angry and irritable, and you are not likely to keep your irritation to yourself. There's a considerable danger of arguments and disputes, particularly at home or at work. When you look back at this later, you may realize that there was nothing to argue about except egos. No real issues were at stake. But it is better if you have a real issue to argue about. For if you have to fight for your beliefs, today is the day to do it. You are sufficiently strong to carry your point of view. But it would be a pity to waste this energy on a matter of no importance and create hard feelings over nothing. Others may seem to be picking fights with you even though you offer no provocation. Make sure that you aren't provoking them subtly by an attitude or an implicit point of view. You should be careful under this transit because you are likely to be accident prone. Be careful while traveling. Drive cautiously and avoid cuts and injuries to your legs or hands. Be very cautious if you handle any cutting machinery. If you have any irritation or anger in you now, avoid using any kind of machinery or sharp instruments. Alright, so that was again the morning of March the 8th, peaking at 8:51. So in the morning, probably the day before and after, these themes will want to arise with Mars in Gemini, squaring Mercury in Pisces from the last year. So definitely one to be aware of and to use wisdom to get through. So on to the next one. So by the end of the day on March 8th, this theme with last year's Neptune comes out relative to the Sun conjunct Neptune. So this transit has two distinct sides and is very difficult to know in advance which will be more prominent. Therefore, you should examine both possibilities and watch for one, the other, or even both to surface. First of all, this transit greatly stimulates your awareness, often in ways that are difficult to understand rationally. You are more sensitive to other people, and you seem to know how they feel intuitively. At the same time, you are more concerned with their benefit and less with your own. Something about this transit enables you to identify with other people so much that you are more concerned for them than you are for yourself. It is as if you become them somehow. Therefore, this transit is good for any activity in which you help people, whether as an individual or through an institution or charity. A related effect of this transit is that it may arouse your interest in occult and spiritual activities. You are more concerned now about the deeper truths hidden behind the appearances of the everyday world. But unfortunately, this transit also has a difficult side. The ego-denying quality that enables you to identify with and help others may also manifest itself as a feeling of psychological weariness and inability to cope with the world. You may want to flee the everyday universe and go off into some private world of your own. A relatively harmless manifestation of this is daydreaming, but it can also surface as a full-scale effort to evade reality. Avoid taking drugs or alcohol under this transit, for you may find it difficult to control your use of them. Also, your body is much more sensitive than usual, and you may react badly to drugs, even prescribed drugs. Allergies can kick up with this transit. If you feel the need to withdraw from routine confrontations with the real world, you will get the most benefit from going off by yourself to meditate or contemplate. Okay, so let's kind of talk about that in the context of what's coming up. I know it's a little bit of a digression, but so Neptune's such a slow-moving planet that by March 8th, the moon will be with Pluto, so it's a difficult sense and difficult sense of things manifesting at this time. So be careful. The Sun, Neptune, and Venus are all at the T-square to the nodes of fate, so certainly be careful and listen to your intuition, but don't get overwhelmed by someone else's harmful intentions or energy. You know, be connected to God, and He'll protect you from the ill will of people that can manifest during such a time. Let's see. So the moon, it won't be until the 12th, I see, that this will happen in the day-to-day astrology. But we're not quite there yet. We still have the theme of March 10th to talk about. So during March 10th, there is a transit of Venus to the Venus of last year in the AM. So you may see more of this in the late night of Tuesday if you're up that late. Maybe not. So let's just jump right over to that. So with Venus sextile Venus, this transit makes you feel contented and at ease. Today, all your dealings with family, loved ones, friends, or business contacts will go very well because you project warmth and concern for others. New connections made today may be beneficial in the future. This transit would be a good sign of success for a new romantic interest in your life. You will be occupied with love and beauty today, and you will want to be in pleasant surroundings. Probably, you would like to escape from work and practical matters into fun and amusement, but if you must work today, you will be more efficient and cheerful than usual. This is a good day for a short recreational trip to indulge your desire for beautiful surroundings. Financial transactions are favored by this transit, and you should be able to negotiate in business to your advantage. Anything that you buy today should prove to be a worthwhile investment. In general, under this influence, you will feel that life is going more easily than usual, that with little effort, everything is going as it should. So like we said, this happens in the AM. I kind of want to look at the context for it. So Venus is with Neptune, which will be exact. I don't know which day in the transiting, but in the transit to the revolution, where Neptune was last year, Venus will approach it on March 12th. It's the next thing we have to talk about. But during this Aquarius moon, it looks like on March 10th, with Venus sextile Venus, it's connected to the North Node. It's the moon in the midst of Jupiter and Mercury picking up on these themes and manifesting them. Mercury is solidly moved ahead by now, crossed over the ecliptic, is passed on the light to Jupiter and vice versa. So the moon is picking up on all of that. And I think it will be quite nice. Aquarius moon is somewhat individual. However, there is some meaning in group and brotherhood here, sisterhood, to look for and hope for. So we'll go right over to March 12th for Venus conjoin Neptune of last year. All right, with Venus conjunct Neptune on March 12th, this transit will denote a refined spirituality and love at its highest, with a total lack of selfishness and a feeling of complete soul union with a loved one. At its worst, you might be disappointed in a loved one who did not live up to your expectations, which were probably unrealistic in the first place. Daydreaming, probably the most common effect of this transit, is usually harmless and pleasant as long as you are aware of reality. You experience a refined sense of beauty and a desire to have your surroundings be as lovely as possible. However, you are not in a practical frame of mind and should postpone anything that requires good judgment in relationships or finances. If you are creative or artistic, this transit indicates a day when your creativity can be truly inspired. The combination of Venus and Neptune gives you the ability to visualize ideas in your mind and to translate what you see into physical reality. This combination is useful in art, but less useful in relationships, where it tends to confuse the ideal with the real. An artist's goal may be to create the real out of the ideal. A positive effect of this transit upon relationships is that you feel a kind of selfless love, and you want to do everything for the benefit of your loved one. All right, so we've jumped back and forth to this a few times, but of course we'll talk about it on the weekly. But this is going to be new moon energy as well, you know, and Venus will be with transiting Neptune as well, so everything sort of blends in. This is a time to plant new seeds of love and selflessness and good towards others, that I think that all of these signs are pointing to here. So that's in the morning. That's at 9:13 that Venus crosses over that. But the Sun will sextile Mars and Jupiter of last spring, on this day, which was Jupiter besieged by Saturn and Mars in Capricorn, his sign of detriment. So it feels to me it's like the making the best out of a bad situation. Really like letting go. If you can really let go and let in this new that wants to come in, I really think that'll be beneficial. It's kind of like healing, that healing touch of relationship and love that can heal us from the damages and traumas of the past, and more relatively to this year. But we're gonna look at Sun sextile to Mars and Jupiter just to see what they signify. Alrighty then, Sun sextile Mars. This is an excellent time for accomplishing all kinds of work. Your energy is high, and you have faith in your ability to achieve. Usually your health is quite good now, and this influence is extremely favorable for all kinds of physical activity. In fact, it would be very bad not to be physically active, because these energies must have an outlet. If they do not, they can cause problems even when they are basically positive, as with this transit. You are able to work well with others now too, because your ego energies are well balanced, so you can derive personal satisfaction and gratification through group activity. At other times, others may be a threat to your security and sense of well-being, but that is not the case now. In fact, you may have to work in a group in order to be most effective. Nevertheless, you are in a self-assertive mood today. If you have to fight with someone to maintain your position in any matter, you will be able to do it effectively. You are not inclined to back down, although you will seek out a common ground where the two of you can agree, if there is any. You may unknowingly create for yourself an opportunity to take control or authority over others, to be a leader or director. Keep in mind that under this transit, you will derive the most satisfaction through expressing the needs and desires of the people you work with. This is not the time to go off on a purely personal tangent. That opportunity will come shortly as the Sun moves towards the opposition with natal Mars. Of course, this book is written for a natal perspective, but if God gives you the wisdom, you can use this to understand how people are going to be looking at this in general, or how people's energies are going to be expressed in the world in general. So right after that, the Sun makes the sextile to Jupiter, because Jupiter, this is this Mars-Jupiter conjunction of the spring. All right. So this is an extremely positive transit that will be a useful aid in almost any kind of activity. Traditionally, it is one of the transits regarded as lucky, but actually it gives you the positive frame of mind that is at the root of most success. Almost anything you want to do today should work out as planned, unless there is some overwhelming influence to the contrary from the other planets. This is an excellent day to be with friends. You have a strong desire to be included in something larger than yourself, to participate in group consciousness and activities. Today, you are able to work harmoniously with others because you see that your own benefit is derived from that of the group. This orientation also extends to professional activities. This is an excellent transit for holding group conferences because of your ability to make them run smoothly. This is also a good time to reflect on your life and examine your goals and ideals. Your idealism will probably be strong with this transit, but instead of blindly assuming that everything will work out ideally, you should make a general review of your plans for the future, working very carefully toward attaining your ideals. Also, you can put all the disparate parts of your life together into a complete picture so that you can understand the whole. Your relationship with persons and authorities is usually good under this transit. An inner desire to be at one and in tune with the sources of energy in the universe can be expressed on the mundane level as a desire to get along with those in power. This is not usually a self-seeking desire, although with some people it will be. It is a recognition that you can learn something from them, gain more experience, and improve the lot of those around you, as well as your own. All right, you all. So all that is going on in the context of March 12th. So wow, guys, it's really a lot. So much possibility, it seems like, at this time. And why shouldn't there be? God is good, man. So, all right. So now we will move right along. Okay, y'all. So on the 14th, Sunday, March 14th, we have Sun sextile Pluto in the late evening, 8 o'clock. So it's 2 days after that. So the new moon has taken place, and the moon has gone into Pisces by Aries. It's moved out of Pisces into Aries. So we have an Aries moon in the background of all of this, or in the foreground, I should say. We're the ones looking at the background. So in the background, on the 14th, we have the Sun sextile over to Pluto. Under this transit, you will be able to make changes in your immediate environment and to reform circumstances that you have been unhappily contending with for some time. You should seize any opportunities that come today to wield creative power for the good. However, it is very important to realize that these energies must be used for the improvement of all and the general good. Only incidentally should this power benefit your purely personal ends. On a very mundane level, this is a good influence for cleaning up a situation that has become disordered and confused, such as cleaning house or even clearing up a difficult personal situation. Today, you will probably have to confront the power of a group or collective that you have to deal with every day, but the results are not likely to be disadvantageous. You will have to realign your own intentions with the collective intentions of the group, friends, neighbors, or business associates, but this will probably work to your advantage. This transit also signifies a concern with deep thinking, a feeling that the superficial aspects of life are not adequate. You want to get to the bottom of whatever problem you are working on. You will work carefully and investigate with thoroughness and depth, leaving no stone unturned. Subjects such as psychology, the occult, yoga, or other techniques of personal transformation will attract you, and they would be good for you at this time. So much for Robert Hand on Sun sextile Pluto. So yeah, the challenge is not to align yourself with powers that are not good, you know. So seek God, and He will use this power to transform these circumstances by His power. But other people may be using it for devious purposes. So, and we are looking at the mundane context, so be careful. You know, Dogmas that have strong transformative energies that are related to Pluto are not always above board, so you need to be sure of what you are dealing with is of the truth, good, not of evil, and so on. So, thank God for his wisdom. So we will move on to March 15th here. So on March 15th, Monday, we have Venus sextile Mars, Venus sextile Jupiter, Mercury move into Pisces, and Mercury move into the 5th house for the rest of his revolution. So we'll look at those very briefly. Just a bit of housekeeping real quick. I'm getting tired. I'm kind of making myself do this a little bit. So I'm going to take a break. I hope it won't interfere with me getting this out as soon as I can with a good edit and so on. So we're just going to jump right over here to Venus sextile Mars. This transit favors love relationships and the formation of friendships. As with other Venus-Mars contacts, this one indicates a balance in your life between self-assertion and the need to relate to others. In a sexual relationship, this balance is manifested by your ability to give and receive equally. In friendships, you can be yourself without difficulty, and by being yourself, you can get along better with your friends. Creative activities are also favored by this transit. If you are not artistic, you may spend the day working to beautify your immediate surroundings. Try to become involved in some kind of activity with others, a party, a night out, on the town, or some such. This will give the energy of this transit an adequate outlet. The energy and liveliness that you have now will attract the people that you want to attract, especially the opposite sex. You are likely to be in a fun-loving mood, and you will need company to make the most of it. This transit may bring about financial opportunities, particularly for investment in a new and unique venture. Your own individuality is best expressed by getting involved, financially or emotionally, in projects that are different and innovative. Okay. So that happens at about 10:30 in the morning, and then by about 2 o'clock, Venus makes a sextile to Jupiter of last year, wherein we feel contented and benevolent under this influence. You are at peace with the world and want to share your feelings with everyone you meet. Friends, in particular, may be the beneficiaries of your generosity, as you may benefit from theirs. In either case, you will both benefit because everything done under this transit becomes a fair exchange in the long run. This transit is favorable for all financial enterprises, especially those involving foreign investments, medicine, or the law. Any legal matters decided under this transit will also work out to your benefit. A new friendship or love relationship that begins under this transit will be beneficial. Such a relationship will bring out your best qualities and can truly be described as a growth relationship. You are attracted to high-minded and upright people. Like many Venus transits, this one is good for getting together with friends for fun. It is usually a rather light-hearted transit, and you are not attracted to serious matters or hard work. A general lack of discipline and unwillingness to work are the only negative influences of this transit. This is a time for rest and recreation, not for attending to the routine business of the day. Okay, so that's on a Monday of all days. So, maybe that Monday is, well, I'm sure it will all work with the wisdom of God and the way that it's showing up, probably with the moon that day. So Aries, moon square Pluto, in the morning, probably be picking up more on this. Mercury is also in the 29th degree, about to change over to Pisces, so it's a critical degree. There's a lot that has to be done that will need to be finished as Mercury goes into the next sign. So Mercury will be leaving the 4th house, whole sign house, and going into the 5th house of the mundane astrology, which we're going to look at next. All right, Mercury in the 5th house. So Mercury's in the 29th degree. He'll be moving into the 5th house. So I'll let you see this. I'm not going to read it. We've already been dealing with it on the mundane level. But we will read Mercury in the 5th house because for all of 5 days, Mercury will be in this house in the mundane context. So, Mercury in the 5th house. This is a good time for expressing your thoughts to yourself and for communicating them to others. In this respect, it is rather like the transit of Mercury through the 1st house. You can make clear to people your stand on any matter and explain very effectively any issue that is on your mind. You will also be inclined to use your mind for amusement, that is, for reading, writing, and playing games that require mental agility. These activities will be more attractive than usual during this time. So I'll let you read the rest of this here. But so Mercury will be moving into Pisces, where he has some debilities and detriment in Pisces. It's big. It's kind of difficult to identify exactly what it is that we're communicating. So the context will definitely change once the annual revolution happens. I'm just kind of including this here because I want to see how much these techniques match up to reality. So good for, I'm just going to leave it here for you to contemplate. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go take a break, but I'll be back to do the last 5 or 6 aspects for the year when I come back. So, okay, I'm back. So, on March 17th, Wednesday, in the morning hours, Venus will make the sextile to Pluto of last year. And by the afternoon, Mercury will return to where he was during the annual revolution of the spring. So let's jump right over to it. Venus sextile Pluto. This transit deepens the emotions like other Venus-Pluto contacts and creates a greater need to belong to an individual or to a group. Friendships are extremely important to you today, and they may change your life. Love relationships are more intense, and physical sexuality is experienced as something transcendental. This is a good time to try to understand your emotions and how they affect your relationships. Today you can enrich and enhance a relationship as you realize the strength of your feelings in a moment when you experience the full force of your emotion. Certainly, any emotion that you feel today will have extraordinary force and vigor. No experience under this transit is superficial, nor would you be satisfied with anything that was. If you are with someone who is trying to avoid a deeper confrontation on a transit such as this, you will penetrate and dig until you have reached the truth. This Venus-Pluto transit can denote the beginning of an unusually intense relationship. Such a relationship often has a peculiar, faded quality that is possibly an illusion, but powerful in its effects. Alright, so that's in the AM, and by the time we come to about 3:30 in the afternoon, Mercury will have returned to where Mercury was in Pisces last spring. This transit is favorable for all types of mental activity and communication with others. Your intellect is sharpened, and you can clearly formulate and articulate ideas that you might otherwise have difficulty with, so that others can easily understand your meaning. Your power of reasoning is also improved, enabling you to follow any complex argument that someone else presents. Because you are able to see the flaws in people's reasoning, you are not likely to be taken in by specious arguments. At the same time, your curiosity is aroused. You are interested in finding out about unfamiliar facts and new ideas. Puzzles fascinate you as a mental exercise that you will make every effort to solve. Obviously, this is a favorable influence for beginning the study of any new subject or discipline. If you are in school or taking some other type of course, this should be a very successful day. I'll let you all read the rest of that. It's Mercury in Pisces. So I wonder, let's see, about what time is that? What's the moon doing at this time? Making a square to Jupiter, who is the dispositor of Mercury. So it looks like people might be going big with this at this time. It's moon in Taurus. People are, I mean, it's enjoyable. Taurus is an enjoyable time, usually, with the moon there. And so many planets have come out of this stellium in Aquarius by this point. It's really noticeable now. Mercury has left. Venus has left. So make of that what you will. Okay, right? All right, looks good. So, on the 19th, Mercury will make the trine to the North Node of last year and make a sextile to Uranus of last year. And this is the day right before the annual revolution for 2021. So, this is really the last Mercury contact, or one of the last contacts, it looks like, other than the Sun to Saturn, that are going to come up for this annual revolution. So Mercury is really in touch with that, that sense of where things were going last year when the North Node was in, I believe, Cancer, right? That transit didn't happen until a little bit after that. Let's make sure of that. Okay, yep, it was Cancer. So Mercury makes that transit, and of course Mercury is building in the, I need to be a bit more clear about these distinctions as I'm saying them, but Mercury is currently making a square to Mars at the current time, the transit. So even though there is this frustration with Mercury that's coming out, but it's still I don't really know quite exactly what to say. It's as if Mercury is still connected with the way things are going. Things aren't out of order in the scheme of how God has designed this planetary system. All right, I don't have a note to go to. We don't have a book to read about transits to the nodes, but we can look at Mercury sextile Uranus, and we'll jump right over to that now. We should say that this is happening all sort of in the middle of the night, so I don't know if I don't know exactly when we'll see it. It looks like we're just very connected to the way we felt the way we thought last year. That our stream of consciousness thinking is very much aligned, for better or worse, and it looks mostly for the better. Like there's a possibility we've been through this experience of this year, and I guess we're like really looking back on it. But you know, God give us the wisdom to know what that means. So we'll jump over to Mercury sextile Uranus here. Alright, Mercury sextile Uranus. This transit signifies a day when you will make new discoveries, encounter new people, and generally have a sense of excitement and interest, and you won't have to go out of your way to experience these effects, for your immediate environment will present all the interest you need. Don't worry about being unpleasantly surprised, because the influence of this transit is mild and not usually disruptive. But if you do find this day disruptive, examine your attitudes and ask yourself if you are being too rigid. Rigidity and unwillingness to allow anything to deviate from a prescribed plan will make this transit more difficult to handle. This is a good day to tackle old problems that you have not been able to resolve in the past. Perhaps you're trying the same solutions over and over again, even though they didn't fit the situation. This transit will help you see fresh solutions, and you may be able to work these problems through at last. You have a great interest in new problems now, seeing them as a challenge rather than a threat, and this gives the day some of its exciting quality. You will not want to spend the day in your usual routine, and you shouldn't. Do something different and leave room for total spontaneity. Very often, with this transit, you will start out in one direction, but wind out somewhere completely different. Alright, I'll let you read the rest of that there. Let's go back. Okay. So that's all kind of happening in the middle of the night, but it's quite connected and it looks pretty useful, honestly. And on the next day, March the 20th, Saturday, our final aspect is the Sun sextile over to Saturn. So let's just go to it. This one's also in the middle of the night. Sun sextile Saturn. This is an excellent transit for getting things done. You are in an orderly state of mind and have a strong sense of self-discipline. You carefully consider every move before acting. You make plans at a very concrete level and insist that it be possible to execute them in the practical universe. You are not interested in idealistic speculations or abstract considerations that cannot be applied in daily life. All matters relating to work or your profession are favored by this transit precisely because of your orderly mental state. Any task that you do today will be very carefully done with no loose ends. If you have work that requires great concentration or attention to detail, this is the day to do it, or today is the day to do it. It is possible that your serious and attentive attitude to your work will attract the attention of your employer or other persons in authority whom you encounter. This is also an excellent time to seek advice from an older person or someone whose wisdom and experience you respect. The combination of the Sun and Saturn relates to father figures, that is, people who can give you guidance concerning the larger world. You want to understand as much as possible about what the world expects of you and how you can do your duty. Obviously, this is not the day to relax and have a good time because you are not in the proper frame of mind. If you don't work, you will spend your time reflecting upon serious matters. In all of your actions, you are willing to defer present gratification and wait until another day for your reward, if any. You are not interested in indulging yourself or wasting time in frivolity. Take advantage of this energy while it lasts, for you will not always feel this disciplined. Well, that's very interesting that is the last aspect we have before the Sun's ingress into Aries at 4:37 on March 20th, Saturday. So it's quite a serious sense we have about ourselves. It looks like our last aspects, involve Saturn, Mercury, and the Sun, who are connected in a very deep way. We're ready for the challenge, it looks like. We're ready for the discipline that's going to come. Every month we see the ingress of the moon from Pisces to Aries. It's quite a dynamic change. Pisces has more to do with vision and imagination and more of the sense of things. It's dreamier in a sense. But Aries is more individual. It's working on a personal level. So I think we see this shift happen energetically right before this next revolution. So, well, you all, that was a lot, wasn't it? Man, that was a lot to unpack. Well, there's really a lot just to put in a filing cabinet in a way. I'm only halfway there because now I've got to timestamp everything, which I'll probably do by day, and then I'll list the aspects of that day. I'll get to it. Well, what else do we have to say? I don't know. Well, I guess just to contextualize this, the intent of this report is just to give you something to contemplate about these more hidden energies, I suppose, as they relate to the mundane context. If you live in this region, or you lived in an area where a fixed sign was ascending at the time of the sun's ingress into Aries for 2020, this would probably be insightful for you. So that's the idea. It's one layer, and I feel like if we think about it, it'll be useful to have in our memory when we're looking at the more visible, tangible things that are going on as we get into this month. So, I don't know if I'll do this one for next month, seeing that it will be the annual revolution. So between now and then, I'll put my final report out for my for the annual revolution for 2021. That's the goal, at least. I'm going to try to do it the best way that I can. I'm obviously still learning a lot about a lot of different things, editing, astrology in general. So pray for me that I'll be able to do it with wisdom from God to the benefit of you, my brothers and sisters. So without any more of your time, thank you. I hope this was useful, and I'm sure we'll be able to talk more about it in the future. So God bless you all, and I hope you have a good time. In Jesus' name, amen.